Hello, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, traders? Happy Monday. Welcome back. Hopefully, you guys are ready to rock and roll to kick off week number 2 of June and crush it. Hopefully, we got some better opportunities, better market conditions this week. I'm excited. I'm ready to hit it hard. And I am ready to rock and roll. So before we dive into it, hit me with a big old good morning. I want to see who's up inside of chat, ready to rock. And then we will officially dive into it. And then bear with me today. I am drained. I'm exhausted. If you guys can't already tell, it's like, really? Yeah, I need another cup of coffee, so that's going to definitely have to happen. And I got to wake up, man. Yesterday was a long day, so if I'm stuttering, I'm all over the place, and I can't find my words, just bear with me. It's okay. We all have these days. All right. Paxton, what's up, man? Tom, Steve, Jake the Sizzler, Jeff, Tom, Corey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully you had a blessed weekend. Happy to have you guys back. All right. So we're going to dive into it. We're going to go SPY Qs, look at your individual stocks as well, and make sure you guys are prepared for the day. So go ahead and have those stocks ready to go, and we'll make sure that we have some time to take a look at those. So we're going SPY right to the daily. First things first, I want to see where we're currently at this morning, and we're pretty much seeing a flat open. Here on the SPY, we closed at, $599.14 on Friday. Right now, we're trading around $600. So, I mean, we're up about $1 from the close here in pre-market sesh. But we still know we have a lot of resistance to the upside. We have a lot of that supply as well. And we already know that from last week. So a lot of overhead resistance. We're slightly above $600. And that's going to be a pretty key area for the SPY as well. Being able to get through and stay above $600. So we're going to go to the daily, do some top-down analysis and see where the best of the best key areas are at that we want to trade off of today and get prepared. But let's go ahead and take a look at the economic calendar first, and let's review it for the week and see what we have coming on up. So today, Monday, June 9th, do we have any key high-impact data? We do not. Go take a look at tomorrow, Tuesday. We don't have any high-impact key data. Getting into Wednesday, we have CPI data, baby. It's CPI week. So we got inflation data here Wednesday. That's going to be 8:30 a.m. Other than that, we have nothing else really happening during market hours on Wednesday. Coming into Thursday, we got PPI data. PPI data Thursday, 8:30. And then coming into Friday, we have Michigan consumer sentiment. So we got a lot of data Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And historically, what do we typically see the week of like key data like this that, drops Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Sometimes it's a slower, choppier week as traders and investors kind of just, sit on the sidelines, wait for data to be released, see how the market's going to move based on the data, and then we start to see some action. So, I mean, fingers crossed that, Monday, Tuesday is not slow, choppy. Hopefully we got some great opportunity. But again, if history repeats itself, 80% of the time we get slower market conditions leading up to CPI, PPI data when we have that being dropped on like Wednesday, Thursday, like we do this week. But again, fingers crossed, guys. So that's what we have on the economic calendar for the week. So if you guys are doing any kind of like short-term swings, hey, Monday, Tuesday would be, good opportunities. But then you got to be mindful, holding any kind of position from like Tuesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, because we have key data. Don't know what the data is going to show us. We don't know how the market's going to react. We always need to be in the mindset of capital preservation, right? So if you guys do those swing trades, just be mindful about the key data that we do have Wednesday on. All right, but let's go right to the SPY, to the daily, and let's do our analysis. We do have that supply zone here on the daily. Right? Same supply zone that we've been looking at for the past like 30 days. We keep coming up to that supply zone, popping out, hit supply, popping out, hit supply. A little bit of a pop out, but where's the top end of that supply? Top end of that supply zone is at $599.62. Take a look at price. We're officially above that area. We came through it on Friday multiple times. And so that zone's been beaten up. So again, those unfilled orders that were left behind, let's be honest. We've been sitting here for a good amount of time. Most of those orders are gone, and price is above that region. So That zone's been mitigated. We don't want to have that supply zone here. We want to go ahead and just remove it completely. And we already know we don't have any other, key significant daily supply zones to the upside, right? Because there's no supply at all-time highs. So even if you came up and drew this little supply zone up right here, and it meets the criteria, it's a drop-based drop formation, you just got to understand that there's no supply at all-time highs. That's the rule of thumb. This is something you just got to tread lightly. Understand that that supply zone's near those all-time highs. But we're still going to mark it up, see if we have any overlapping zones, and maybe there's a high reward, low risk trade off that supply zone. And it just makes sense if we get there. So that's the only thing we really have to the upside. As far as our closest zone of demand, we're just going to start at current price, look down, and then look to the left and identify any key area of demand that we have. A little drop base, rally, but we gapped down before the impulse. Not crazy about that. So then we start getting down into this region here where we had that drop base rally, but that's down at like 575. We're at $600. We're not moving 25 points to the downside today. So I'm not going to mark that zone up because price isn't, in my opinion, moving 25 bucks to the downside unless Trump tweets something. Well, maybe he does. That's going to be like your nearest zone of demand is going to be down there. All right. So we're really just working key areas of support resistance. That's what we have to work with. So let's take a look at the daily and let's get an idea of where our most significant daily support and resistance zones are. So we have this zone that we, hit quite a bit on Friday. We were just chopping off this zone here on Friday. Not chopping, but we beat the zone up. That zone was between 599.23 to 599.80. We topped out off that zone. We gapped above it, opened, hit it as low a day. Nice break to the upside. We had this nice high a day reject. A couple other days, got a couple hits. Nice little low a day bounce, high a day, big reject to the downside. So that's a very dialed, very key zone here on the SPY. But that's the same zone that we were just kind of just beating up there on Friday session. Now we're trying to hold above it here in pre-market, right? We're above it, support, coming back down to it. Looking to try and hold that zone as support. So that's going to be a make or break zone, in my opinion, for today. Is going to be that zone between 599.23 to 599.80. Let's go ahead and make that our lits because that is a pretty significant daily zone. And that's the area that we were grinding on Friday. So that's going to be like a little short-term lits. Here on the SPY. Let's go find our next zone to the upside. And this is where it gets a little bit challenging because you're just working through all of this daily chop that we saw in the low 600s. But this is going to be your zone right here on the SPY. Let's go ahead and change that to blue. It's not demand, Josh. It is a blue zone. And let's make any adjustments that we need to make sure that's dialed, but that is the zone. It's between 602.53 to 603.03. All right, we get above it, we hold it as support, come down, low a day bounce, low a day bounce, low a day bounce, big drop below it, come back up, retest it as high a day, followed by a gap down the next. So again, right here, just in this region, it's already a dialed in valid zone. And then how many more hits do you get? You get another hit. 1, 2, 3, 4 hits, more sharp moves off that zone. That is your next significant zone of resistance here on the SPY. That's up between 602.53 to 603.03. And then one final key zone to the upside should get us good for today. I think it's going to be up around like that 605 mark. I would have to say probably up around 605. Somewhere in this region here. Yeah, like 605.01 to 605.50, right? We capture that gap up low a day before it pushed into those all-time highs. Low a day bounce, high a day rejection, gap up, low a day bounce, high a day rejection, high a day rejection. So, I mean, we see a lot of hits off the zone, right? A lot of hits, and we only got like one sharp move. It's when we gapped down, hit the zone as low a day, but had a big move to the upside and hit new all-time highs back in January. So that's going to be our next significant zone to the upside. What about to the downside here? All right, what if we fall below that $600 level and we get below that LITS and it's setting up short? How much more downside could we see? I mean, not a lot. Your next key zone to the downside is between 597.36 to 598.01. They're on the SPY. We can just look left and see we hit it here. 3 days back to back. Big sharp drop on off to the downside. We had this gap up, open, high a day, big drop, gap down, open, high a day, big drop, low a day, big bounce. We can see that level's been hit many times. A lot of sharp moves off of it. So that's going to be our next key lower zone here on the SPY. And we need one more. Just one more, Josh. That's it. Give me all the zones. So next area to the downside, this is an easy one. It's really just off that May 19th high a day and then right around that June 4th low a day. That's right where we're going to have that zone here on the SPY. So let's go ahead and throw that up, and then we should be done on our daily analysis, and then we'll just flip down to those lower time frames and get an idea of, do we have anything else on those lower time frames? So final zone of support for today is 595.21 to 595.74, and it meets all the criteria. Multiple hits, sharp moves off that zone. All right, so we're done on the daily. Let's go flip this into a 4-hour time frame, and we're just going to do some supply-demand analysis, see if there's anything else. So, yep, right on the 4-hour, there's one clear area of demand where we have this rally-based rally. So let's go ahead and mark up this 4-hour demand zone. And take note that the 4-hour demand zone lines up with that daily zone of support. Right? So these two forms of analysis have nothing to do with one another. How we identify key support resistance zones is completely different than how we identify key areas of supply and demand, right? So it's not a coincidence when you have those two areas lining up. We have some 4-hour demand, and we have this daily zone of support. We already have confluence down around 595 to get long if we see price get back down there. 4-hour demand, daily zone of support. Any other areas of demand? Nope, that's it on a 4-hour. How about supply? You got some 4-hour supply resting right up here. I mean, we have this rally-based drop formation that we can clearly see here on a 4-hour time frame. So we're going to have some 4-hour supply. Check it. 4-hour supply lines up with what? That daily zone of resistance. Who would have thought? Wow. So you do have that little rally-based drop formation. So you'd have some 4-hour supply. Let's see if that zone gets tighter as we flip this down into now a 1-hour time frame. So 1-hour time frame, looking at price and then working left to the downside, looking to find my nearest level of demand, and it's going to be right down up against that 4-hour zone. So that's going to be your 1-hour demand zone, right? We have this nice little drop base rally. So we have that 1-hour zone that sits on top of the 4-hour zone, that sits right on top of that daily zone of support. So again, that 595.25 is going to be an A-plus area to play calls and get long here on the SPY. So you got some overlapping demand. Let's go see if we have some overlapping supply. Yeah, I mean, you got this little rally, base, drops. I mean, you got quite a few basing candles, if that's how you read that supply zone, where we have this initial rally, base, drop. Or you can look at this as a simple rally, base, drop. I'm going to go mark all of this up as my base. So I'm going to go from the highest point down to the bodies, right? I'm looking at the rally, base, drop. So if I just look at those basing candles from high to bodies, that's what my supply zone looks like. It's a little bit bigger than just running it off of that single basing candle, but I could look at this as being 4 basing candles. So there's some time spent there, right, if that's how we're analyzing this before the drop on off. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to mark up that zone here, but we still got some overlap, right? We got the 4-hour. We got some 1-hour supply that overlaps, and take note of where that daily zone of support is. Right, so we can see we get this nice tight little overlap right here around 603. That's where the 4-hour, the 1-hour supply zone and that daily zone of resistance meet, right around 603. So this is an A-plus area to be playing puts or getting short on the SPY. It's already a high probability area based on the zones. And that's where we're at. Let's go wrap it up maybe on a 30-minute and just see if there's anything else that stands out on a 30-minute time frame here on the SPY. And then we should be all set. We have some 30-minute demand, which we already know we have some 1 hour, 4 hour down there. Price to the left, nothing that I would want to mark up. Let's go see if we have any like 30-minute supply off that larger zone. Yeah, you do. You definitely do. Rally base drop, rally base drop, rally base drop. I'm just going to keep the 4 hour, 1 hour because I still have some overlap. So we're looking good. So that's kind of where we're at, guys. So here's the game plan for today. We have that Litz, the line in the sand on the SPY, between 599.23 to 599.80, right? If we hold that zone today as support, good price action, we're going to play this long up into that supply zone and then that daily zone of resistance. So up around like 602 to 603, there's going to be a lot of resistance up there. There's a lot of supply. That would be target. So we're looking to capture maybe 2 to 3 points of upside on the SPY off that Litz. So that's game plan number one. Game plan number two is we come up and hit the overlap on the SPY, where we come up and hit that 603 mark, where we have that 4 hour supply, 1 hour supply, and daily zone of resistance. That's the next area where I would really start to consider a short here on the SPY, up around 603. And then last plan is if we fall back below the Litz. So if we fall back below that line in the sand and we stay below it, good price action, forming resistance off of it, we could absolutely get short around that 599.60 level and play it short down into our next zone, which is down between that 597.36 to 598.01 here on the SPY. So that's what we got for the day, guys. Anything else we can do? Any uptrends, any fib retracements that we would want to run? Don't really want to run any fib retracement here. Definitely don't see any uptrend that I would run. No downtrends. I don't really see any other analysis to do here on the SPY. So we're all set, guys. We got our main zones of support, resistance, supply and demand. And now we just have to wait for the market to open, come into one of these zones, and simply set up. That's all we're looking. Be patient, wait for stock to get to zone, wait for it to set up off that zone, take the trade accordingly. 70 to 80% of the time, you just do that, you're going to find yourself on the winning side of the trade. So we're good to go on the SPY. Let's go rip through the Qs real quick, and then we'll have time to look at some of those individual stocks as well. So this is speed round on QQQ. You guys get the process. You understand the process, what we're doing across those multiple time frames. So you guys are set. I'm just going to rip through the Qs and get you guys dialed in so we have more time to look at your individual stocks. Yes, I mean, again, it does get a bit challenging up here because there's just so much of that daily chop overhead, and you don't really have any like key significant zones. But the best zone that I see is right here between 531.16 to 532.12. Come up, hit it as high a day reject, high a day reject, and then you get a couple other hits last week off that zone, specifically here on Friday. So that's going to be a pretty nice zone here on the Qs. We run it up a little bit more. Next zone here on QQQ is going to be up here between 533.80 to 534.16. And then one more final zone to the upside. Here on the Qs, it will be up here between 536.16 to 536.53. So those are all of your main daily zones of resistance to the upside. Now we got to go find a couple lower zones of daily support. Yeah, again, it's just it's a bit of a challenge to find like really key zones dealing through all that daily chop. But next zone is 528.26 to 528.96. That's going to be your first lower zone of support to the downside. And then last zone we're going to be working with today. Like, why are you so quiet, Josh? Because I'm dialed in. Like, why are you so quiet? Because I'm doing this in real time. So sometimes I just need to shut up, dial in, and make sure that I'm dialing the best of the best zones. Especially if I'm going to give you guys these levels and build plans, I want to make sure that these zones are dialed in. All right, so next lower zone to the downside will be 525.42 to 526. All right, do we have any nearby supplier demand on the daily? We don't. We just have those 5 daily zones. So we're going to go right down into our lower time frame here and do some supply demand analysis and see if we have any supplier demand zones. Any supply here? No. How about if we look left on a 4-hour? Any supply here? No. What about some demand? Do we have any 4-hour demand? I mean, yeah, you got this little drop-based rally formation. You even have this rally-based rally. Those zones are going to be pretty big on a 4-hour, so I know I'm going to have some 1-hour demand down below. Probably have some good 30-minute structure, and I know at least it's inside of the 4-hour. But to keep my chart clean, I'm not going to mark the 4-hour zones up. I'm going to just drill this down into a 1-hour time frame. And here we go. So we do have that drop-based rally formation here on the Qs. So we can go ahead and mark that zone on up. There's going to be some 1-hour demand. Again, you see the drop-based rally. We even have this rally-based rally. So we're going to go mark up this 1-hour demand zone down here as well. Any other zone? No, that's it. 1-hour demand, 1-hour demand. Let's go finish this up on a 30-minute time frame and see if we got some zones and zones. Yeah, zone down here would be the same. Zone here would be pretty much the same. Actually, it wouldn't, because that's your basing candle right there. So there's your rally, base, rally. So we have some 30-minute on top of the 1-hour. On top of the 4-hour. Because remember, there was still some 4-hour demand sitting right there. All right, there's your basing candle. So we'd have that entire basing candle marked up as demand. But when we flip this down into our lower time frames, we see those zones get much tighter. So I already know that if I take a trade here down around 526.90, I have 3 reasons to take that trade long. I have some 4-hour demand, I have 1-hour demand, and I have 30-minute demand that all overlap and intersect at the same price. So I already know that's going to be a great area to play some calls down around this 526.80 region. So that's game plan number 1 is if we come down to that 526.80 level where I have those 3 overlapping zones of demand, I will look to scalp this with calls and look for a nice pop and a nice bounce off some of that overlapping demand. But we're just really range bound and stuck in between these 2 key zones of support resistance, right? We got top resistance between 531.29 to 532.12. We got bottom support down here between 528.26 to 528.96. So we're just going to look to trade off these zones accordingly. If we continue to sit range bound today, right? It's easy. Just play the top of the range or the bottom of the range. So if we come up to the top of the range, that daily zone of resistance, and we can't break it, we just play puts. We get short. Where to? Lower zone of support, bottom of the range. So if we come down to the bottom end of this range, right, we hit that daily zone of support and we hold above it, we'll get long. So we'll just continue to trade accordingly off these zones with good price action. Good price action off resistance. We play puts down into our next lower zone of support. We come down to support, have great price action. We play calls back to the top of resistance. And then we'll just play the retest if we break one of these zones. All right, so if we break top resistance, we'll play the retest long. If we come down and break down below bottom support, we'll play the retest short into some of that lower demand that we have here on QQQ. So that was easy. Easy peasy day on the Qs. Guys are dialed in. Pretty simple day here on the SPY as well. You guys should be pretty dialed in. IWM just broke the downtrend that began in November. Let's go do some analysis on IWM. Stock's gapping up nice from 213. No, it's not. Well, that doesn't make any freaking sense. Where did we close that on Friday? Oh, we closed at 211.90. We're at 213.70. So, I mean, a nice little $2 pop. To the upside, let's see what we got. I know Tom was saying IWM breaking a downtrend. Yeah, we did. We had that nice multi-month downtrend. We just broke above it. Looks like last week. Broke above it last week. 2 days of consolidating. Nice gap up. So we're definitely on the bullish side of the downtrend that we just broke. $1 million question is, where are we going to the upside? I mean, look at that just strong level of previous resistance here on IWM. I would like to see that zone retest. Like, can we come back and back test this zone and hold it as support? Plus, why is this not changing the blue, dude? So weird. Change it to blue. Default, save. It should be blue. There it is. All right. And then it's the gap, too. So we can come down, fill the gap into the high from Thursday, because there's the gap here. We got that zone that I would like to see us come and, retest as support. A lot of resistance. 1 hit, 2 hit, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hits, 9 hits off that zone, and we finally broke through it. That zone was between 209.66 to 210.12. So that's an area of support I would ideally like to see IWM come back down to, back tested the support before really getting its next leg to the upside. What do we have here? We got a little rally-based drop formation. So, yeah, we're going to be coming up into some supply here on IWM. And so at first we saw this little rally-based drop, but if I look left, I see the supply candle actually right here. So I can see that we have this little rally-based drop formation. This was just a hit off of that supply zone. So here's when we can use some discretion and be picky. What area of supply has price not revisited yet? Well, if I just adjust the bottom of my zone up to that high from March 3rd, that's the area of supply where price has yet to go. So we got some supply to the upside. We can see that. But honestly, there's no other key zone of resistance until we realistically get up into that supply zone. And there's only like one other zone that I would even throw up because I see quite a few hits. And it's right before we get to that supply zone. Go change that color on up. We got 1 hit, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 hits. Yeah, that's a key zone. And that's right before you get to supply. So you got that daily zone of resistance. This is the next most significant zone to the upside. It's between 214.91 to 215.44. So we got that very, very, strong, significant zone of daily resistance. We have some daily supply right overhead. We got that daily zone of support. But there's not a lot in between these two zones. If you look left, there's just not a lot in between those two zones. But these are the most significant areas here in IWM. And we are probably going to hit that 215 zone today. It looks like it. Come up and hit the 215 zone. So that's going to be like plan number 1 is if we come up to that 214.91, the 215.44 zone, and we top out at that zone. I mean, we're kind of overextended too if you think about it. This is a big move. So if we go from 210, which was Friday, and within one session, we're up 5 points on IWM, just straight up into that zone, we could look at this as being pretty overextended into a key zone of daily resistance, right? So if we come up into that zone and we start to top out with good price action, we're already overextended into key resistance. That's going to be a high probability area to play some puts to the downside here on IWM. So that's going to be the first area I look to get short on IWM. If we, for some reason, come back down to that 209 zone and we can retest it, I would like to play calls on that retest. But there's really nothing else in between. So we just got to wait to see if we get up to that 215 zone today. And if we do, that's going to be the first area that we could look for a little day trade to the short side off that daily zone of resistance on IWM. GME earnings. When does GameStop have earnings? Did they have earnings? Earnings tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow before market. So, woohoo, GameStop earning. Nah, Not excited. Not excited at all. What else are we looking at today, guys? All right, we got SPY dialed in, QQQ, top 2 for day trading, right? We're good to go on that. And then we got IWM. We got some potential there as well. But what else are y'all looking at today? AUX, I do not trade Forex. RGB crypto, what's up, dude? Good morning. Jared Mason over on YouTube. What's up, buddy? Good morning. What else? OKLO. Let's go do some OKLO. If my fingers would work today. All right, OKLO. It looks like a low float stock. I definitely gonna have to say this is a pretty low float stock. It's priced at $50 a share. It's trading at 52 here in pre-market. What is the floats on this stock? Let's go Yahoo Finance. Let's go look at the statistics tab. Let's see the flow. It's not bad. It's under 100 million in flow, so it's not low, but it's still relatively low. 100 million in flow. Stocks at $50 a share. Creeping back up into these all-time highs. So we could all agree that we have all-time high resistance. It just slaps you in the face, right? That's not hard to identify. So 57.50 to 59.28, all-time high resistance. What do we have to the downside? We got a gap to the downside. So let's go ahead and mark up that gap. Bottom end of this daily gap is at 39.76. Top end of this daily gap is at 44.72. So we have this daily gap to the downside. A lot of resistance overhead. But is there anything in between these two levels? Right? Is there any other key zone? Anything else in between the gap, in between all-time highs? I don't really see too much. I just don't really see too much. Yeah, I mean, you got to be patient with something like OKLO. There's just no real key zone, here in this region. There's not really going to be any like key supply. I mean, maybe if we get down to like a lower time frame, we could start to see supply. And some would say, oh, hey, here's a supply candle right there. Right? Because you had that nice drop-based drop. But was the impulse 2 times greater to the downside? It was just about 2 times greater to the downside, but we were snapping back pretty quick. So let's see if we have any lower time frame supply sitting here. But on the daily, that's pretty much what you got. 4-hour time frame, we're already above that 4-hour supply zone. 1-hour time frame, we're hitting that 1-hour supply zone right now. You can see we had that nice big base drop. But again, look at the impulse. The impulse was not 2 times greater out. So I'm not crazy about that zone, but we see it's, forming resistance off that zone here in pre-market. I mean, we came up to the tippity top of that supply, and we're respecting it. We saw price drop to the downside. So that's it. Price has already hit 100% of that supply zone that was already pretty weak based on the impulse out. So that zone's gone. So there's nothing else, man. That's what you have to work with on OKLO. If we come back up to that all-time high zone of resistance and we just can't break it, and we have really good price action that shows us there are substantially more sellers than buyers, then we'll look for the short. If we come down to the top end of the gap at 44.72 and we form support off the top of the gap, we'll play calls. If we ever get inside the gap and stay inside the gap, then we'll play puts for a gap fill down to 39.76. But that's really what you got, man. What we have on OKLO. Cup and handle formation on OKLO. Yeah, you could recognize this as a cup and handle. Absolutely. Run up resistance, big U-shaped formation, back to resistance. Could we see the higher low break to the upside? We could. This is your typical retail cup and handle formation, right? There's your steaming cup of coffee. And then there's your little handle. And here's Josh just kind of chilling over here off to the side. And he is holding that cup of coffee. It's such a big cup. And he's such a small little guy here. Yeah. So you got your cup and handle breakout formation. But good rule of thumb is if you measure from the low of the cup to the high before the handle forms, and you just run that with a fib, some of the best cup and handles set up off a fib level, where you see the cup and you just go ahead and fib retrace from the low to the high. And as that candle's forming, some of the best cup and handle breakout formations is when the handle forms off of a fib level. Most of the time, that 50%. So it's like, could this be the handle that breaks? It could. But if we see OKLO come a little bit lower, maybe come down and fill the gap, right? Come down close to that 50% retracement. And that's where we start to see the daily higher low form. Well, hey, that would bring me into the trade, right? Because that's a more technical sound area to be looking to get in, right? Not getting in here, chasing and hoping that it breaks out, but say, hey, if it does come down and fill the gap, if it does come down into that 50% retracement, and that's where we see this higher low forming, that's going to be a great area to get in. Stops would be nice and tight, target, back up at resistance, and then maybe even leave a runner for the breakout. So that's how you'd want to ideally trade a cup and handle. Is the objective is get long as the handle's forming, but you need to know there's a key area where you see that handle forming to at least that's a sound area to be looking to get in versus trying to chase it up here at $50. So that's OKLO. That's what we have there. I don't see anything that's going to bring us into a trade today, personally, on OKLO. I just don't see it setting up today, personally. But I do like that lower area getting in. I mean, you got some of this demand sitting down here as well off that Fibs Golden Pocket. I mean, this is starting to look pretty good. I mean, even scratch the gap. Look, just remove the gap completely, right? Just look at what else we have. We have this nice little daily demand zone that sits right at the Fibs Golden Pocket. Like, that is going to be a great area to look to play some calls to see, do we get that push back to all-time highs? But that's down at like $36. We're at $50. If we ever see OKLO down at $36, that's a great area to get in. Up here at 50, just doesn't make a lot of sense. Bro definitely is tired. Why you say that, man? Why you say I'm tired? I'm exhausted. We spent 6 hours at the beach yesterday. We were like an hour and a half away from home. So by the time we got home, showered, kids down, I think it was like 11:30, midnight, before I fell asleep. I didn't eat yesterday at all, so I'm like starving all day in the sun. I'm tired, bro. I'm tired. All right, what else are we looking at, guys? How do you make sure that support is held? Please answer. Yeah, you just got to be able to read price action. I mean, there's other ways to identify what's going on at key levels of support resistance. Maybe you want to, use footprint charts, read order flow, or simply get good at just reading price action in real time. That'll give you a pretty powerful, strong indication. Is that zone being respected? Do we have more buyers or sellers than buyers at that level? And even looking at price and correlate it to volume, right? Like volume price analysis. Mixing those two methods together will also give you a really good sign. Should I be getting in at these levels of support resistance? And so Anna Colling has a book called The Complete Guide to Volume Price Analysis by Anna Colling. It's a good book. It's a good read. It explains what volume price analysis is and how you can build that into your trading system. Do I trade gold? I do not actively trade gold. Geez, man, you walked 15,000 steps, climbed 24 floors at the water park in Tennessee. Yeah, I'm sure you're pretty beat too, man. All I did was chase my kids around at the beach yesterday. Dude, they're tiring though. Got a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 6-year-old. They're gone. You're like, hey, there she is. Like, she's good. She's not near the water. You look away, look back 5 seconds later, she's out in the ocean. Like, yeah, dude, she had me on my toes. So I am a little, what would the newer generation say? Gassed? Like, I'm a little gassed today, bro. No cap. I'm gassed. Yesterday was lit, though. It was just lit. All right, what else are we looking at, guys? Yeah, my calves are on fire. That's how much I walked in the sand. My calves are just, like, jacked right now. All right, what else are we looking at, guys? We're kind of getting a little off topic here from stocks, all right? Jared looking at AMD. Yeah, let's go look at AMD. And this will probably be the last one that we have time to look at before market open, all right? But let's go AMD. We always start on the daily time frame. Unless you're doing swing. If you're doing a swing trade, then start on a larger time frame and do some supply demand analysis. So let's go do some supply and demand analysis on a monthly time frame. There's going to be some monthly supply right here on AMD, right? We have this drop, base, drop. Was the impulse 2 times greater out? The impulse was right at 2 times. So a nice little gap down impulse. Price has already come back up, hit some of those unfilled orders, popped out. So we're going to adjust that monthly supply zone, right? And look at the area where price has yet to revisit. And so we're going to make that monthly adjustment to overhead supply. What about demand? Well, we had demand here, took it out. We had demand way down here. Look at that. Came down right into that demand zone, popped. So both of those lower demand zones have been taken out. We got some of that remaining supply overhead. Let's go flip this down into a weekly time frame. Doing the same thing, weekly supply-demand analysis, starting at current price, up to the left for supply, starting at current price, down to the left for demand. Let's go ahead and do some supply analysis. We have this little rally-based drop formation. So there is going to be some of your weekly supply. Rally-based drop. We even gapped down on the week. That's a strong supply zone right there. What about demand? Yeah, we got this little rally-based rally formation right down here. Nice little basing candle. You can even look at this as another little rally base rally. There was the impulse here too. We'll probably get more structure down on a daily and actually see where that demand was created, because you see, like, that wasn't really the impulse. The impulse was from here to here. So there's another kind of day of working and then the impulse, and that's fine. But we see that clear basing candle after the first impulse up. So rally, impulse move to the upside base, starts the rally. We'll see what it looks like on a daily. There you go on the weekly on AMD. Again, we're just doing larger time frame supply demand analysis on the weekly, monthly. Then we start getting into our daily. We're still doing supply and demand analysis, but we're looking at key areas of support and resistance as well. So that daily supply, there's nothing to really change here. All right, you got some monthly, weekly supply overhead. Daily supply would be the same size of zone that we have on a weekly anyway. Let's go look at that daily demand area. Rally base rally. So daily demand actually falls right under that weekly demand zone. At least we get a little bit more structure. I mean, here's your gap up. There's your rally, base rally, or your drop, base rally. But there was the impulse. There's your basing candle. And you had your impulse leading up to the base. So there's your move up, base, move up. Go ahead and mark up that daily demand. And that's what we have. Is there anything else? Man, I tell you what, not really. Are we grinding an uptrend on AMD? I mean, it kind of looks like we could be just grinding this little uptrend on the daily. Yeah, we are. You see the little uptrend on the daily that we're grinding? So we got this nice little uptrend on AMD. We got 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hit. So you got 3 hits off the uptrend. It's valid. So you got this little uptrend that could be holding a support. Give us a pop up into some of that weekly, monthly supply. Do we have any demand? You got this little daily demand chilling right here. I mean, I would say drop, base, rally. That was just a hit, but actually demand was back here. So check that out. That's why we always got to look left. I mean, we start at current price, go down, we see demand right there. But if we look left, we see that these were just hits off that demand zone, right? Drop, base, rally. Or we have the rally, base, rally. But either way, we see that demand was back here. Drop, base, rally. Price comes in, hits unfilled orders, pops out. Price comes in, hits the unfilled orders, pops out. So that's not demand, even though it looks like it. That's a hit off that demand zone. So that's actually 1 hit, 2 hit. So that zone's already got 2 hits. Got a nice little daily uptrend on AMD. And we know that we have some of this weekly supply that's inside of some of that monthly supply overhead. So the way I see AMD is there could be a nice trade setting up at some point in the near future, but right now I don't see a reason to day trade it. I just don't see anything that stands out saying, hey, this is a good day trade. And I don't see a reason to get into a swing trade yet, but I see a reason to put it on the watch list. So if we ever see AMD come up into that weekly supply zone that's inside of the monthly and price falls out of it, I would entertain getting short to see if we could also crack and fall below the uptrend. Go from the bullish side of the trend line and start to come into the bearish side of that uptrend. That's kind of where my head would be with AMD, is let it again run up into weekly supply, see a reaction, play puts, and see could we get price to fall below the trend line as well and see a nice drop to the downside, at least back down to like 108. And then we know we have room back down towards around 100. So today, I don't see a reason to day trade it. I don't see a reason to execute a swing trade, but I see a reason to add it to the watch list and see, do we come up and set up short off some of that weekly supply that we have just right overhead. All right, Mr. Jared. Yeah, buddy. I got you, man. All right, guys, stay blessed today. I got to bounce. I got to go warm up my coffee, and I got to get rocking and rolling in the Zoom session with everybody in the mentorship. So I'll be in the Zoom sesh here in a couple minutes, guys. Stay tuned. If you guys are on TikTok, trade smart, trade safe, and stay blessed as always. If you guys ever have any questions about trading, clarity, next steps, you guys want some recommendations, hit me up. Send me a DM. I'm always happy to help. Got some free trainings I can hook you guys up with as well. So if you want some free trainings on top-down analysis, zoning, supply demand, whatever the case is, I got tons of trainings that I like to hook you guys up with for free as well. So just shoot me a DM. Always happy to help. But stay blessed. Trade smart. Trade safe. Have a strong, profitable day. And I will catch you guys back here Wednesday morning at 8:30 here on the Talk. So peace out, guys, and I'll see you Wednesday.